Starting with this concept, Hans Urs von Balthasar built his opus magnum of theological aesthetics. Many of its details have passed into theological work, while his fundamental approach, in truth, the essential element of the whole work, has not been so readily accepted. Of course, this is not just or principally a theological problem, but a problem of pastoral life that has to foster the human person's encounter with the beauty of faith. All too often, arguments fall on deaf ears because in our world too many contradictory arguments compete with one another. So much so that we are spontaneously reminded of the medieval theologian's description of reason, that it has a wax nose. In other words, it can be pointed in any direction if one is clever enough. Everything makes sense, is so convincing. Whom should we trust? The encounter with the beautiful can become the wound of the arrow that strikes the heart, and in this way opens our eyes, so that later, from this experience, we take the criteria for judgment and can correctly evaluate the arguments. For me, an unforgettable experience was the Bach concert that Leonard Bernstein conducted in Munich after the sudden death of Karl Richter. I was sitting next to the Lutheran Bishop Hanselmann when the last note of one of the great Thomas Cantor cantatas triumphantly faded away. We looked at each other spontaneously, and right then we said, "Anyone who has heard this knows that the faith is true." The music had such an extraordinary force of reality that we realized no longer by deduction, but by the impact on our hearts, that it could not have originated from nothingness, but could only have come to be through the power of truth that became real in the composer's inspiration. Isn't the same thing evident when we allow ourselves to be moved by the icon of the Trinity of Rublev? In the art of the icons, as in the great Western paintings of the Romanesque and Gothic period, the experience described by Cabasilas, starting with interiority, is visibly portrayed and can be shared. In a rich way, Pavel Yevdokimov has brought to light the interior pathway that an icon establishes. An icon does not simply reproduce what can be perceived by the senses, but rather it presupposes, as he says, a fasting of sight. Inner perception must free itself from the impression of the merely sensible, and, in prayer and ascetical effort, acquire a new and deeper capacity to see, to perform the passage from what is merely external to the profundity of reality in such a way that the artist can see what the senses as such do not see, and what actually appears in what can be perceived. The splendor of the glory of God shining on the face of Christ. 2 Corinthians 4:6. To admire the icons and the great masterpieces of Christian art in general leads us on an inner way, a way of overcoming ourselves. Thus, in this purification of vision that is a purification of the heart, it reveals the beautiful to us, or at least a ray of it. In this way, we are brought into contact with the power of truth. I have often affirmed my conviction that the true apology of Christian faith, the most convincing demonstration of its truth against every denial, are the saints and the beauty that the faith has generated. Today, for faith to grow, we must lead ourselves and the persons we meet to encounter the saints and to enter into contact with the beautiful. Now, however, we still have to respond to an objection. We have already rejected the assumption which claims that what has just been said is a flight into the irrational, into mere aestheticism. Rather, it is the opposite that is true. This is the very way in which reason is freed from dullness and made ready to act. Today, another objection has even greater weight. The message of beauty is thrown into complete doubt by the power of falsehood, seduction, violence, and evil. Can the beautiful be genuine, or, in the end, is it only an illusion? Isn't reality perhaps basically evil? The fear that in the end, it is not the arrow of the beautiful that leads us to the truth, but that falsehood, all that is ugly and vulgar, may constitute the true reality, has at times caused people anguish. At present, this has been expressed in the assertion that after Auschwitz, it was no longer possible to write poetry. After Auschwitz, it is no longer possible to speak of a God who is good. People wondered, where was God when the gas chambers were operating? This objection, which seemed reasonable enough before Auschwitz when one realized all the atrocities of history, shows that in any case, a purely harmonious concept of beauty is not enough. It cannot stand up to the confrontation with the gravity of the questioning about God, truth, and beauty. Apollo, who for Plato's Socrates was the God and the guarantor of unruffled beauty as the truly divine, is absolutely no longer sufficient. In this way, we return to the two trumpets of the Bible with which we started, to the paradox of being able to say of Christ, "You are the fairest of the children of men," and "He had no beauty, nor majesty to draw our eyes, no grace to make us delight in him." In the Passion of Christ, the Greek aesthetic that deserves admiration for its perceived contact with the divine, but which remained inexpressible for it, in Christ's passion is not removed, but overcome. The experience of the beautiful has received new depth and new realism. The one who is beauty, let himself be slapped in the face, spat upon, crowned with thorns. The Shroud of Turin can help us imagine this in a realistic way. However, in his face that is so disfigured, there appears the genuine, extreme beauty, the beauty of love that goes to the very end. For this reason, it is revealed as greater than falsehood and violence. Whoever has perceived this beauty knows that truth and not falsehood is the real inspiration of the world. It is not the false that is true, but indeed the truth. It is, as it were, a new trick of what is false, to present itself as truth and to say to us, over and above me, there is basically nothing. Stop seeking or even loving the truth. In doing so, you are already on the wrong track. The icon of the crucified Christ sets us free from this deception that is so widespread today. However, it imposes a condition that we let ourselves be wounded by him, that we believe in the love who can risk setting aside his external beauty to proclaim in this way the truth of the beautiful. Falsehood, however, has another stratagem, a beauty that is deceptive and false, a dazzling beauty that does not bring human beings out of themselves to open them to the ecstasy of rising to the heights, but indeed locks them entirely into themselves. Such beauty does not reawaken a longing for the ineffable, readiness for sacrifice, the abandonment of self, but instead stirs up the desire, the will for power, possession, and pleasure. It is that type of experience of beauty of which Genesis speaks in the account of the original sin. Eve saw that the fruit of the tree was beautiful to eat and was delightful to the eyes. The beautiful, as she experienced it, aroused in her a desire for possession, making her, as it were, turn in upon herself. Who would not recognize, for example, in advertising, the images made with supreme skill that are created to tempt the human being irresistibly, to make him want to grab everything and seek the passing satisfaction rather than be open to others? So it is that Christian art today is caught between two fires, as perhaps it always has been. It must oppose the cult of the ugly, which says that everything beautiful is a deception, or only the representation of what is crude, low, and vulgar is the truth, the true illumination of knowledge. Or it has to counter the deceptive beauty that makes the human being seem diminished instead of making him great, and for this reason is false. Is there anyone who does not know Dostoevsky's often quoted sentence, "The beautiful will save us"? However, people usually forget that Dostoevsky is referring here to the redeeming beauty of Christ. We must learn to see him. If we know him, not only in words, but if we are struck by the arrow of his paradoxical beauty, then we will truly know him, and know him not only because we have heard others speak about him. Then we will have found the beauty of the truth that redeems. Nothing can bring us into close contact with the beauty of Christ himself other than the world of beauty created by faith and the light that shines out from the faces of the saints, through whom his own light becomes visible.